The transport ship was cold and quiet. Park Taiho sat alone in the metal chamber, checking his small bag of supplies for the 10th time. One multi-tool, one water cleaning tablet, one thin emergency blanket, a small tube of food paste. That was everything the Galactic Federation allowed for the survival test. Taiho was not worried. He was excited. The Galactic Federation was a collection of thousands of alien species from across the universe. Humans had only discovered them 5 years ago, when a Federation scout ship crashed in the Pacific Ocean. Since then, Earth had been trying to join the Federation as a full member, but membership required passing the survival test. Every species had to prove they were strong enough, smart enough, and tough enough to survive in the galaxy. The test was simple. One person from the species would be dropped on a dangerous planet with almost nothing. They had to survive for 30 standard days. If they lived, their species could join the Federation. If they died, their species had to wait another 100 years to try again. Many species failed. Some died in the first hour. Others lasted weeks before the planet killed them. The survival test had a 60% death rate. Taiho was humanity's first candidate. The ship's computer spoke in a flat voice. Arrival at Planet XR7 in 10 minutes. Prepare for drop? Taiho stood up and stretched his arms. He was 32 years old, average height, with short black hair and a calm face. Back on Earth, he had been an engineer. He built bridges and buildings and water systems. He solved problems for a living. Now, he was going to solve the biggest problem of his life. The ship's walls turned transparent, showing the planet below. Taiho's smile faded a little. Planet XR7 was ugly. Brown and green clouds covered most of the surface. Through gaps in the clouds, he could see black swamps and red mountains and forests that looked wrong somehow. The colors were too bright. The shapes were too sharp. Everything about the planet screamed danger. Class 7 Death World, the computer announced. Primary hazards include acidic water, extreme temperature changes, carnivorous plant life, and multiple apex predators. Average survival time for tested species is 4.7 days. Only 4 days? Taiho muttered. That's not very long. Correct. Good luck, human. The floor opened beneath him. Taiho fell. The drop pod carried him down through the poisonous clouds, shaking violently as it hit pockets of hot and cold air. Taiho held onto the safety handles and kept his eyes open. He wanted to see everything. Every detail might help him survive. The pod crashed into soft ground and broke apart around him. Taiho rolled out onto wet black soil. The air hit him immediately. It was hot and thick and smelled like rotting eggs mixed with metal. His eyes watered. His throat burned. He pulled his shirt up over his nose and looked around. The swamp stretched in every direction. Black water sat in pools between twisted trees with bark like broken glass. Strange plants grew everywhere, some with leaves that moved even though there was no wind. In the distance, something large moved through the water. Taiho could not see what it was, but he could hear it breathing. Okay, he said to himself. This is bad. But bad is not impossible. He found a dry spot on higher ground and sat down to think. Most people in his situation would panic. They would run around looking for food and water and shelter. They would make noise and attract predators. They would waste energy and die tired. Taiho was not most people. He pulled out his multi-tool and a small notebook he had hidden in his boot. The Federation rules said no advanced technology. They said nothing about paper and pencil. First things first, he said, starting to write. What do I know about this place? He spent the next 3 hours sitting and watching. He did not move from his spot. He just observed. He watched which plants moved on their own and which stayed still. He watched where the water flowed and where it pooled. He watched the sky change colors as the sun moved, noting how fast the temperature dropped when clouds covered the light dot by evening. He had filled 6 pages with notes. The temperature had dropped 30 degrees in 2 hours. The plants that moved during the day had closed up and gone still. New plants had opened, glowing faintly with soft blue light. The large creature in the water had moved away. Probably to hunt somewhere else. Teho used his emergency blanket to make a simple tent on the highest ground he could find. He did not sleep much. Every few hours he woke up to write more notes about what he heard and smelled in the darkness, far above the planet. In a comfortable observation room, dozens of aliens watched the human on their screens. Interesting, said Observer Krill, a being made of living crystal. He has not tried to find food or clean water. He has not built any shelter beyond that thin blanket. What is he doing? Writing, said Adjudicator Massa, clicking her insect mandibles in confusion. He has spent the entire day writing in that small book. Perhaps humans go mad quickly under stress. Perhaps. We will see. Dr. Yunhana, the human woman assigned to explain human behavior to the observers, sat quietly in the corner. She knew exactly what Taiho was doing. He was not panicking. He was planting and that made him more dangerous than any predator on that planet. 5 days had passed on planet XR7. In the observation room above, the alien committee was very confused. He should be dead by now, Krill said, his crystal body flickering with frustration. The average survival time is 4.7 days. He has passed that. Why is he not dead? On the screen, Park Taiho was crawling through mud toward a group of strange purple flowers. He moved slowly and carefully, stopping every few seconds to write something in his notebook. His clothes were torn and dirty. His face had cuts and burns from various encounters with the planet's dangers, but he was smiling. What is wrong with his face? Massa asked. Is that expression pain? Fear? Dr. Yunhana looked at the screen and shook her head. No, he is happy. Happy? He is covered in wounds and mud. He has eaten almost nothing. He has been attacked by predators 7 times. How can he be happy? He is learning, Hannah explained. Humans enjoy learning new things. It makes us feel good even when we are suffering. The alien stared at her like she had said something crazy. On the planet below, Taiho reached the purple flowers. He watched them for a long time. When a small flying creature landed on one flower, the petals snapped shut like a mouth. The creature disappeared. Taiho nodded and wrote something in his notebook. Carnivorous, he said to himself. Fast reaction. Maybe 3 meters of safe distance? He carefully collected some fallen petals from the ground, being very careful not to get too close to the living flowers. Then he moved on to his next target, a pool of water near a strange rock formation. Taiho had spent the last 5 days, mapping everything within 2 kilometers of his landing spot. He had documented 47 plant species, 12 animal species, and numerous mineral deposits. He had been bitten, burned, stung, and chased. Each time he took notes on what hurt him and how. His notebook was almost full. The water in the pool was bright green and smelled terrible. Most beings would avoid it. Taiho scooped some into a container made from large leaves he had woven together. He had learned on day 2 that the big leaves from the silver trees were waterproof and surprisingly strong. He carried the green water to a spot where he had found special gray clay on day 3. He pushed the water through the clay slowly, watching it filter out the other side. The water that came through was clear. Taiho smelled it. Then he put 1 tiny drop on his tongue and waited. Nothing bad happened. He waited another hour, checking his body for any signs of poison. Still nothing. Finally, he took a small sip. Clean, he announced to no one. The clay removes the acid and the toxins. Good. In the observation room, Krill made a sound like breaking glass. Did he just create a water filtration system? In 5 days? With mud? It appears so, Massa said slowly. The Velith spent 800 years developing water purification technology. This human made one from dirt in less than a week. Hannah smiled but said nothing. By day 7, Taiho had found food. Not the emergency paste from his supplies. Real food. There was a plant that looked like an orange cabbage. It was poisonous. But Taiho had noticed that one small animal ate it without dying. He watched that animal for an entire day. He saw that it only ate the inner leaves, never the outer ones. He saw that it always ate the leaves after dipping them in a certain type of mud. Taiho tried the same thing. Inner leaves only. Dipped in the brown mud from the thermal vents. It tasted terrible, but it did not kill him. He is reverse engineering the ecosystem, Masa whispered. He is watching what survives and copying it. That is very clever, Krill admitted. On day 8, Taiho had his first real success with wildlife. A small predator had been following him for 2 days. It was about the size of a dog, with 6 legs and scales that changed color. It had tried to bite him twice. Both times, Taiho had escaped but had not tried to kill it. Now he understood why it was following him. The small predator ate parasites. It survived by cleaning larger animals and eating the bugs that lived on them. But there were no large animals in this area anymore. They had all moved away because of the changing seasons. The small predator was starving. Taiho had parasites. Every creature on this planet had parasites. He had been trying to remove them for days without success. He sat very still and let the small predator approach. It was scared at first, then hungry won over scared. It climbed onto his leg and started eating the tiny bugs that had buried into his skin. It tickled. Good boy, Taiho said softly. Or girl, I do not know, but good either way. When the creature finished eating, it did not leave. It sat next to Taiho and watched him with its 4 yellow eyes. I will call you did you, Taiho decided, because you make a did you sound when you eat. In the observation room, the aliens watched a human name a wild predator like it was a pet. Humans, Krill said, are very strange creatures? Hannah laughed. You have no idea. Day 15. The observation room had become the most popular place on the Federation station. Aliens from dozens of species crowded around the screens, watching the human do impossible things. Is that a building? Someone asked from the back of the room. It was a building. Park Taiho stood back and looked at his work. The structure was small, only about 3 meters by 3 meters. The walls were made of a gray material that looked like rough concrete. The roof was made of layered leaves from the silver trees, waterproof and strong. There was a door made of woven plant fibers and a small window covered with thin stretched membrane from a plant that made clear sheets. Inside, there was a raised sleeping platform, a storage area, and a small pit for fires. It had taken him 3 days to build, and he was already planning the next one. How did he make that wall material? Krill demanded. We have analyzed it from orbit. It is some kind of phyte calcium mixture. Where did he find calcium on a swamp planet? Hannah pointed to a spot on the map. Shells. There's a small lake there with creatures that have calcium shells. He has been collecting dead shells for a week. And phytiditidi, volcanic rock from the thermal vents? He grinds it up, mixes it with the shell powder and water, and lets it dry. Humans invented this technique thousands of years ago. We call it cement. The aliens were silent for a long moment. Your species invented cement thousands of years ago, Masa said slowly, and you still remembered how to make it, with your hands. On an alien planet? We remember lots of things, Hannah said. Humans are good at passing knowledge down through generations. We write books, we teach children. We never really forget anything important. On the planet, Taiho was already starting his second building. This one was different. It was built over a thermal vent that pushed hot water up from underground. He had spent 2 days digging channels to direct the water where he wanted it. Now hot water flowed into a pool he had lined with clay and stones. It was a bath. A bath, Krill repeated, his crystal form flickering between colors that probably meant confusion. He is building a bath on a death world. During a survival test, humans like being clean, Hannah explained. Also, the hot water helps heal wounds and relax muscles. It is practical. It is insane. Sometimes those are the same thing. By day 18, Taiho had 3 buildings. The sleeping shelter, the bathhouse, and a new structure he called the workshop. This was where he kept his tools and supplies. He had made new tools from stone and bone and plant fibers. He had made rope. He had made containers. He had made simple furniture. You had moved into the sleeping shelter. The small predator now acted like a guard, making loud warning sounds whenever anything dangerous came close. In exchange, Tejo made sure you always had parasites to eat. It was a good deal for both of them. Day 20 brought water. Real running water. Tejo had carved channels from a clean spring he had discovered on day 12. The water flowed downhill through tubes he made from hollow plant stems. It passed through his clay filter system and came out clean and safe to drink. He had created a small fountain in the center of his growing compound. Plumbing, Mossa said weakly. He has invented plumbing, reinvented, Hannah corrected. Humans have had plumbing for about 4,000 years. 4,000 years, and you? Still remember how to build it from nothing? Of course. What if we need it? When would you ever need to build plumbing from nothing? Hannah gestured at the screen. Now, apparently. Day 22 was when Tejo started decorating. He had found some colored minerals near the volcanic vents. He ground them up and mixed them with plant oils to make simple paints. Then he painted designs on his buildings, simple patterns. Waves and mountains and stars. He also built a small garden near the bathhouse. He transplanted some of the glowing plants that came out at night, arranging them in patterns around flat stones he had collected. Why? Krill asked. Why is he making things pretty? That serves no survival purpose. Hannah thought about how to explain this. Humans need beauty, she said finally. We need things to be nice, not just functional. It makes us feel better. It makes us work harder. It makes us want to live. That makes no logical sense. Maybe not, but it works. On day 24, Tejo added lights. He had captured dozens of the bioluminescent organisms that came out at night. He put them in clear containers made from the membrane plant and hung them around his compound. When the sun went down, the containers started glowing. Soft blue and green light filled the air from orbit. The compound was visible as a tiny spot of light on the dark side of the planet. It looks like a village, someone in the observation room said. It did look like a village. A tiny human village on an alien death world. Tejo sat in his garden that night, drinking tea he had made from dried plant leaves. Did you was sleeping by his feet? The lights glowed softly around him. The bathhouse steam rose into the dark sky. He looked around at everything he had built and nodded. Not bad, he said, but I still have 6 days I can do more. In the observation room, Krill turned to Hannah. Your species, he said, is absolutely terrifying. Hannah just smiled. Day 26 started like any other day. Tejo woke up before sunrise, washed in the bathhouse, ate breakfast from his stored food supply, and reviewed his plans for the day. He wanted to build a smokehouse for preserving food. Maybe a better fence around the garden. You was acting strange. The small creature stood at the edge of the compound, all 4 eyes staring into the swamp. It made low warning sounds, different from the ones it made for predators. What is it? Tejo asked, walking over. What do you see? Then he saw them. 3 figures were moving through the swamp, heading toward the compound. They were big, much bigger than Tejo. They walked on 2 legs, but their bodies were wrong. Too long, too bent. As they got closer, Tejo could see scales and claws and long tails. The VORNN. Tejo knew about the Vorn. Everyone in the Federation knew about them. They were a warrior species, famous for their strength and aggression. They had tried to join the Federation 17 times. They had failed every time, usually because they killed each other during the test. 3 Vorn were also taking the survival test on planet XR-7. They had been dropped on a different continent. They should have been thousands of kilometers away, but here they were. And they looked terrible. The first Vorn was limping badly. One of her legs was bent at a wrong angle, probably broken. The second Vorn was being carried by the third. He was unconscious and covered in blood. The third Vorn was barely standing, exhaustion clear in every step. They had traveled thousands of kilometers across a death world. They had tracked the lights of Tejo's compound across the planet. And now they were dying at his doorstep. In the observation room, the aliens held their breath. The Vorn and humans have no alliance, Krill said. They are competitors. The human would be smart to let them die. It would eliminate a rival species from the Federation. What will he do? Mosa asked. Hannah did not answer. She just watched. On the planet, Taiho made a decision. Hey! He shouted, running toward the Vorn. Hey, over here! Can you walk? Come on, follow me. The lead Vorn, the one with the broken leg, stopped. Her yellow eyes studied the human. She was twice his size. Even injured, she could probably kill him with one hand. Why? She growled. Her voice was rough and deep. Why help enemy? You are not my enemy, Taiho said. You're just also stuck here. Now come on before you fall down. He helped support the limping Vorn while the third one carried the unconscious body. Together they made it to the compound. The observation room exploded with noise. He is helping them? This changes everything. Is this a trap? Humans cannot be this foolish. Hana just smiled. In the compound, Taiho worked fast. He had been treating his own injuries for weeks. He knew which plants reduce swelling. He knew which clay stopped bleeding. He knew how to set a broken bone, though he had never done it on a bone this big. This will hurt, he told the female Vorn. Bite this. He gave her a thick piece of wood. She bit down hard enough to leave deep marks in the wood. But she did not scream when Taiho straightened her leg and tied it between two straight sticks. The unconscious Vorn was worse. He had deep wounds across his chest and stomach. Some kind of large predator had attacked him. Taiho cleaned the wounds with the filtered water, applied the healing clay, and wrapped everything in clean bandages made from plant fibers. He might die anyway, Taiho said honestly. I do not know enough about Vorn bodies, but I will try. The third Vorn, who had barely spoken, looked at Taiho with something like wonder. Why try? She asked. We are nothing to you. Taiho thought about the question. Why was he helping them? They were strangers. They were from a species known for violence. Helping them could get him killed, but they were also people. They were scared and hurt and far from home. Just like him. Because I can, he said finally. Because you needed help and I could give it. That is enough reason. The Vorn did not seem to understand. But they accepted his help. Over the next 2 days, Taiho took care of his guests. He fed them from his food supply. He showed the healthy one how to use the water system and the bathhouse. He checked the injured ones every few hours, changing bandages and giving them medicine tea. The female Vorn's name was Keth. She was the leader of their group. She watched everything Taiho did with sharp, intelligent eyes. You built all this? She asked on the second day, gesturing at the compound. Yes. Alone? Did you help a little? The small creature was currently sleeping on the unconscious Vorn's chest. For some reason, it seemed to like him. Keth was quiet for a long time. We Vorn know only fighting, she said finally. We survive by being strong, by defeating enemies. We never thought to make things, to build, to help. There are many ways to be strong, Taiho said. Fighting is one. Building is another. Helping others is another. They are all strength. Keth looked at him for a long moment. Humans are strange, she said. Taiho laughed. I have been told that before. By day 28, the unconscious Vorn woke up. He was confused and weak, but alive. Keth cried when she saw his eyes open. She tried to hide it, but Taiho saw warriors could cry too. Thank you, Keth said to Taiho that night. I do not understand why you helped us, but thank you. You are welcome, Taiho said. Now, do you want to help me build a smokehouse tomorrow? I could use someone tall to reach the roof. Keth laughed. It was a rough, harsh sound, but it was real. Yes, she said. I will help. Day 30. The extraction ships broke through the clouds of planet XR7 and descended toward the coordinates of the human test subject. The rescue team leader was a tall insectoid named Vess. She had performed over 200 extractions during her career. She had seen candidates who were barely alive, hiding in holes, starving and broken. She had seen dead bodies torn apart by predators. She had seen empty landing sites where nothing remained. She had never seen anything like this. Is this the right location? She asked her pilot. Yes, these are the exact coordinates. Vess looked out the window again. Below them was not a desperate survivor. Below them was a village. The ship landed in an open area that looked like it had been cleared on purpose. Vess stepped out and stopped moving. There were buildings. Real buildings made of stone and wood and plant material. 5 of them arranged in a neat pattern around a central courtyard. Water flowed from a small fountain. Glowing plants lined pathways between the structures. Smoke rose from a chimney. A human man sat in the courtyard, drinking something from a handmade cup. 3 large Vorns sat nearby. A small 6-legged creature was sleeping in a patch of sunlight. Oh, hey, the human said, waving at her. You are early. I was going to add a sauna, but I ran out of time. Vess sat down on a rock. Her legs did not seem to work properly. You were supposed to survive, she managed. I did survive, the human said, looking confused. Was I not supposed to be comfortable while doing it? The other members of the rescue team were walking around the compound with expressions of shock. One of them had found the bathhouse and was staring at the heated pool like it was made of gold. There is running water. Someone reported, there is a food storage area with preserved meat and vegetables. Someone else added, there is a workshop with over 40 different tools. There is a medical station. There is a garden. Vess looked at the human. Park Tae-ho, 32 years old, engineer, the first human to attempt the Federation survival test. How? She asked. Tae-ho shrugged. I watched. I learned. I built. It is what humans do. Keth, the female Vorn, stood up and walked over to Vess. Even injured, she was impressive. 2 meters tall with scales like armor and claws like knives. This human saved our lives, Keth said. We were dying. He took us in. He healed us. He fed us. He asked nothing in return. That is not how the test works, Vess said weakly. You are supposed to compete. Only one species can pass. Keth looked at Tae-ho. Tae-ho looked at Keth. Why? Tae-ho asked. Why can only one species pass? The test is about survival. We all survived. We survived together. Is that not better? Vess did not have an answer. 3 hours later, in the Federation Council chamber, the Observation Committee presented their report. Krill spoke first. The human subject not only survived the 30-day test, he exceeded all previous records. He created permanent shelter, sustainable food sources, clean water systems, and medical facilities. He demonstrated knowledge of chemistry, engineering, architecture, and medicine. Masa continued. More importantly, when he encountered members of a rival species who were dying, he saved them. He shared his resources. He worked together with them. He turned competitors into allies. The council members murmured among themselves, What is your recommendation? The council leader asked. Krill and Masa looked at each other. We recommend immediate full membership for humanity, Krill said. And we recommend a complete review of the survival test parameters. Review? Why? Dr. Yoon-hana stepped forward. She had been waiting for this moment. Because you have been testing the wrong thing, she said. You test species on their ability to survive alone. You want to see strength and toughness and individual skill. But that is not what makes a species great. She pointed at the images from the planet. The village. The Vorn working alongside the human. Did you sleeping peacefully? Humans are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest or the toughest. But we are the best at one thing. We take bad situations and make them better. We find lonely places and make them home. We meet strangers and make them friends. She looked around the council chamber. You dropped one human on a death world and expected him to suffer. Instead, he built a resort and invited the neighbors over for dinner. That is what humans do. That is who we are. The council chamber was silent for a long time. Finally, the council leader spoke. Humanity is accepted into the Galactic Federation. Full membership effective immediately. Cheers erupted from the human delegation, but the council leader held up a hand. We are also accepting the Vorn. Their representative has shown that their species can learn new ways, can grow, can change. That is worthy of respect. In the back of the room, Keth lowered her head. Something wet rolled down her scaled face. 1 year later, a research station was built on planet XR7. It was constructed on the exact location of Taiho's compound, using his original designs as the foundation. Scientists from dozens of species worked there, studying the planet that was no longer classified as a death world. Park. Taiho became the Federation's first human hospitality consultant. He traveled to 17 star systems, helping design better emergency shelters and survival facilities. He was famous and busy and important, but once a year, he returned to planet XR7. He would sit in the courtyard of the research station, now much bigger than his original compound. He would drink tea from a handmade cup. You, now old and slow, would sleep by his feet, and Keth would sit beside him, watching the sunset through the alien clouds. "Thank you," she said every year, "for helping us, for changing everything." And every year Taiho gave the same answer. "Thank you for letting me. That is what friends are for." In her office far away, Dr. Yun Hana had hung a small sign on her wall. It said, "Humans do not just survive. They make it home." She looked at that sign every day, and every day it made her proud.